Thank you for plugging into this Family Life News podcast, streaming issues-driven, family-focused news. And welcome back to another edition of Issues in Education. Mondays, during the Noon Report, we spotlight the issues impacting our public schools with the one and only Dr. Ralph Kerr at the Teaching and Learning Institute. Ralph, spring has sprung. Happy first day of spring, my friend. Didn't get you a card. I hope that's okay. But warmer weather is on the way.
That's right. Won't be long till it's baseball season, which we both enjoy.
Oh, we do so much. Can't wait. Hey, couple housekeeping items before we get into the nitty-gritty, Ralph. If you're interested in running for school board, which we have mentioned on this program so many times, well, there are important deadlines, timelines to keep in mind in both New York and Pennsylvania. Ralph, if you would, what are those?
Yeah, let me just give a very brief synopsis. It's very different in Pennsylvania than in New York. In Pennsylvania, the school board elections take place every 2 years, and they're 4-year terms, and they happen on the odd years. In other words, in 2023, there will be school board elections, but they take place with the regular elections in November. New York is very different. There are elections every year. This year, petitions to run are due in your district office by April 17th. Which is not that far away. And then the vote is on May 16th.
And it's so important. I think it's about 10% of eligible voters actually take part in those school board votes, which is so sad. We really need to get those numbers up, don't we, Ralph?
We really do, because so many decisions are made locally, and we need people of faith to have input into those decisions. And the best way to do that is to run for your local school board.
Gotcha. Another big issue in the news always is the teacher shortage problem. There's so many plans out there to try to address it. I know in Pennsylvania there's talk of tax credits to recruit and retain teachers. At the federal level, there's talk of raising the starting pay to $60,000 to help alleviate the shortages in the classroom. Your thoughts on that, Ralph?
Well, something needs to be done in order to recruit more people to teach. There's no doubt about it. And the governor's proposal in Pennsylvania is really an interesting one. If you become a teacher, you get a $2,500 tax credit. And then the $60,000 starting salary is really intriguing. But let me say this, as I said, I think the last time on air, it doesn't really matter how much you get paid. If you don't have a sincere love for students and for the act of teaching, it doesn't really matter how much money they pay you. You won't like it. So if you love kids and you love teaching, then get enrolled in the teacher ed program as soon as possible.
I love the word you use to describe our teachers in our public schools, the word noble, restoring it to a noble profession, which it is, and any teacher would tell you that. Hey, fourth grade test scores leave a lot to be desired. What's the news on that front, Ralph?
Oh, my goodness. This is not good news, Bob, but not really unexpected either. In New York State, the equivalent of a whole year lost in terms of test scores at fourth grade. Math scores were down 10%, reading scores were down 6%, and unfortunately, that's double the loss of the national average, which is not good at all. But I think the New York State Comptroller had an interesting comment on that, and he said, why is it that only 40% of the $14 billion that was given by the federal government to the state schools been used? That's a great question. Yeah. And I would challenge every school district to use the money that they got to help those students get back up to grade level and do it now.
Boy, I wish we had more time to talk about that COVID cash and where it's going, because that's an altogether different topic, but we'll save that for another day. Finally, this one hits real close to home. I know you being on the board at BOCES would find this interesting. There's a BOCES employee in Western New York, our former employee. He's actually fired for refusing to attend an LGBTQ training session. This former employee said his First Amendment rights were being violated by being made to go to this thing. That case went to court, but it did not go favorably for this former BOCES employee. Ralph, what was your reaction to this story?
Well, this is true that the appeals court in New York State upheld the termination of this employee. Here's really the bottom line issue, Bob. If an employer orders you to do something, you really have to do it. And although we may not like the topic that was involved and all of that, I think BOCES got the right decision, even though I don't like it either.
Yeah. How would you have advised this BOCES employee if he said, hey, I have a real problem fundamentally with this conflicting with my Christian values? What would have been the proper way of handling this?
Well, I would have recommended that they go to the training. I mean, you can go and you don't have to really participate. And if you did that, then you would not be insubordinate. And it's really a question of insubordination,
sure,
not the topic of the training or anything else.
All right. Well, just like that, our time is up, Ralph. But hey, we've been a lot of places. We go fast in radio. Yeah. If you want to or are considering running for your local school board, you mentioned some timelines, Ralph, for people to keep in mind. Where can they find more on your website, sir?
They can get that simply at yrun.org, yrun.org.